Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Right. We better wheel him on. Is he in?
I don't know. Did somebody wake him up?
Oh. Well, we've got one half of the talk.
Yes, good morning, guys.
How you doing, man?
I'm very well, thanks, Mike and Ian.
Yeah,
Hey,
welcome aboard, Tim. Thanks for coming and joining us.
Somebody wake up Brian.
Ian, if you would like to entertain not in the spiritual sense, but if you'd like to entertain Tim while I go and find that other guy,
okay,
I'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Cheers.
So he's probably starting early on the beers.
He's probably not even home yet because of the beers. But anyways, Tim, what I want you to do is tell everyone here on BeerCon 1 a little bit about you, a little bit about the year you've had.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I'm from Essex.
Okay.
Grew up here in the UK. Was a ski bum for a while after dropping out of high school. Not quite dropping out. Ended up in the States studying computer science. Followed the kind of software development track. Ended up managing teams of people, and kind of that's the track that led me to where I am now. So part of what I was doing, one of the things I got involved in was a niche area, applications of speech recognition technology, very niche market.
Right.
That threw me into call center technology, which in turn, taking credit cards over their phone, for example.
Right.
And so that then led me into the world of security, let's say, and how do we actually protect this type of stuff. I was working with a small kind of 40-person company, and we went through kind of 9001 standards, we went through 27001 standards, we went through PCI compliance. So that's kind of my journey, if you like.
Your arc.
My arc, and it was an interesting one because it's always been technology oriented, with software being the main backdrop, but then being responsible for kind of as quote unquote CTO, COO of a small company, being responsible for the infrastructure, and fundamentally, of course, it comes down to the people that you hire and the people that you trust. Anyway, having done that for a while. I decided to drop out of that. I was uninspired, if you like, by the call center space, by trying to improve call center experience.
Right.
And so I really started to look at, well, what do I want to do next, and what can I do that would be interesting and useful from a societal, socially responsible perspective.
The humanistic perspective.
Yeah. And that's how I really fell into going, well, actually, I'm interested in the security space. Let's go study it some more. And I did that, and I brought to it, and I bring to it, I guess, my 30 plus years of experience in terms of managing people and processes and organizations. And so I come from the governance perspective, from the how do we help companies. So my business now, having set up my own consultancy business, is all about helping companies improve their security posture.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, because for me, I think a lot of the sort of education that's happening out there in cybersecurity is a little bit, it's not representative of the real thing. And what I mean by that, and Tim, maybe you might have some insight into this, is it is very rare in information security or IT in general that you get a green field, that in fact you inherit somebody else's mess.
Absolutely.
And so, what we have is a lot of folks coming out with CISSP, CEH, other designations that have expectations around cybersecurity based on the idea of a lab experience, right? Whereas the reality is you're going to find those things that are just horrific, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess one of the aspects that I enjoy of what I do, and let me just be clear here. I may have my CISP credential. I went off and got that certification. Of course, everybody makes jokes about it, and I understand that, because for me, CISP was just like I needed to have something.
Sure.
And I had some, valid experience behind me in terms of security governance and management, but it was just the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
And this is such a broad and deep topic that I'm here to learn. And I'm very fortunate to have found you, Ian, to have found other people like Daniel Card, and we talked about B-Sides London just previously. I showed up there. I met some of you guys there, heard some great talks. There's a whole community here that are very supportive, encouraging, kind, noble in terms of their actions. And I'm here to learn. One of the things I have done, and that's a message I guess that is important for everyone in this space, is just to keep learning. And I keep hearing it from people. Keep learning, keep pushing yourself, learn some new particular area. One of the interesting things for me is I get to sit down with companies, and typically I'll go in and do a couple of days on site with a new company, and I'll take them through some kind of a gap analysis, whether we're looking at Cyber Essentials, or whether we're looking at 27,000 or PCI compliance, or even GDPR. From a standards perspective, and kind of look at that, and I get to see various different positions, and as you said, inherited technical debt, one might say.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is, having a look across lots of different clients. I'm starting to get some kind of stats now and some evidence to kind of see where who's doing good at what. Quite, interestingly, when you look across, let's say, the different areas of 27,000, which is just one security standard. Well, what is the worst, across the industry that I'm seeing, what are the worst areas? And the worst areas, supplier management is the worst area in terms of how people are managing their suppliers. And guess what? We see quite a lot of issues related to supply chain attacks.
Yeah.
Because they're being poorly managed, right?
Yeah.
Then the next area that is kind of the weakest link is, surprise, surprise, asset management.
Yeah. It's just not being done.
It's not being done. And people, when, I guess another area, because I've been sitting on both sides of this fence of auditing companies, but also being audited. So I will sit with a company with an external auditor as they're being audited, and I'm trying to defend essentially the security management framework that we've put together. And the auditors come in, and to be honest, the auditors really don't understand the technical side of things necessarily. So they'll be looking at asset management, and what they're interested in knowing is, do you have the right tag on that laptop, and does that match up with your hardware tag in your Excel spreadsheet of your asset management? And that's really not doing anything in terms of reducing risk.
No, it's really not.
Agreed. Completely agree. Just let's just quickly cut to Brian Whelton, who's joined us.
Super.
He's if you'd like to unmute your microphone, Brian, you're not getting away with it.
Yeah, no, we need Brian. We need some Brian. We got buku things that need to be taken care of.
Yeah, I'm there now.
Hi, Brian. So good morning, Brian. For those of you that don't know Brian, he's the Beer Farmers manager.
That's right.
Amongst other things, and he'll go on to that himself. But Brian's job in the Beer Farmers is basically to make sure we've got the money we need to buy the beer that we need.
And bell bonds.
And yes. Too, yeah, and all the musical equipment and studio time, and he drives the bus when we do gigs, and Yeah, you keep us on the straight and narrow. You herd groupies into the van for us and all that kind of stuff. So you're an invaluable member of the team, Ryan. It's fair to say.
Huge member of the team. I couldn't live without Brian. Brian, what else do you do? I mean, obviously, looking after the beer farmers is nearly full time. We pester you 24/7 on Twitter.
Well, I've been running my own network consultancy since 2004. So I mainly do networking. I do security as well, but my main passion is networks and network security, and they like all everything network related. If it's got a packet involved, I'm there, or a log, I'm there.
And so you built this business primarily servicing what type of customer?
Well, I mainly work in the defence space in the UK.
Okay.
Predominantly. I also do a few little bits with small businesses, which host completely different challenges. I mean, obviously, just mentioned the supply chain there. The vast majority of companies in this country probably don't have a supply chain issue because they don't have a supply issue because they're buying one switch at a time. Obviously, enterprise is completely different. And obviously, the security threat is completely different. But so yeah, it's predominantly that. So there's a lot of stuff I can't really talk about, to be fair. But
gotcha.
The challenges are the same, effectively.
Tim talked about the importance of things like asset management, configuration, database, and supply chain management. Are these universal problems right from enterprise down to small, medium business?
Yes, no. I mean, the asset management is just a nightmare for any organization at any level I've ever had any interaction with. Even if you've got to sign for stuff, things just go missing. But I think smaller companies, I don't spend as much time as I used to on the Spice Flex forum. I look at their conferences every year now for the last 5 years. And there's lots of host of smaller companies out there. The IT people tend to be the people who have either fallen into it, they're trying to use it, to leg up to somewhere else. There's some really good people involved in the forum, and they don't have the luxury of having supply chain issues because they either don't have a budget or they just get stuff from where they can get it from. And they don't have any formalized processes like a big company will have. You can only buy stuff from these companies here. Well, from a small business, you just buy it from wherever you can to survive.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd say about that is there are small companies and fundamentally in terms of suppliers, it's going to be about, well, what is that particular supplier doing for us, that particular service provider?
Not for a small company. Can I get that switch for £50 cheaper from that other one? That's how small companies work.
Yeah, no, but also you've got a lot of small companies that will outsource their IT to a service provider.
They won't because they can't afford to. So they've got one IT guy who's working there who's been trying his best, but he's not an IT guy. He's just kind of fallen into the role. Or her.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I mean, it is the case that there's quite a lot of companies that, maybe 40-person company, right? Their business isn't IT, so they're going to outsource it, or they'll have, as you say, they'll contract some IT guy. But they don't actually have any idea of what kind of the responsibilities are of that person or that partner of theirs. Should they be doing patch management for their systems? Should they give the guy domain admin access to their systems? It's that kind of stuff that I was touching on in terms of poor management.
Yeah, I think you're right. In smaller companies, you're going to have an IT person that's probably knows how to manually build a file server, probably knows how to manually build a mail server, manually do this and manually do that by click, stick the CD in and carry on. But they're not probably going to be that security minded. They're more around making sure things are operationally functional and mail works and file systems work and all that kind of stuff.
And that's fundamentally, I see the picture that I see in nearly all companies. And of course, I'm seeing kind of small to medium companies anyway, but they're focused on availability. That's it.
Yeah. Well, one thing I've seen from my point of view, which is obviously from the network point of view, is a small company can't afford me. It's simple as that. They can't afford for me to go in and set up a switch. If it's 40 people, just buy a 48-port switch, everyone's on a flat VLAN. That probably means their servers are on a flat VLAN. And I've seen instances where phones are on the same VLAN as the users as the servers. And the other problem we've got with flat VLANs going on now is we've got a lot more virtualized environments and cloud environments, which are fantastic. But they're often badly implemented because the virtual switch, which the servers connect to, is more often not the responsibility of the server team who just want to get the thing working. They're all in the same subnet. So, you get a web server, which talks to the database server, but I can get to both. And that's the databases where I want to get to. Now, normally a user gets to web interface talks to the database server, remunerates the information. And I should not even be able to get to ping or do whatever I can. So if I can get to that database server and I can compromise a user machine and send X, and unfortunately I'm seeing more and more flat networks, and that's not just because of lack of knowledge at a smaller business level. It's because basically a lack of understanding from people who manage servers in a very expensive multi-million pound enterprise level. That's the biggest threat to lateral movement, Mike.
So, but you are in the business of implementing some simple changes, right? And I think it's easy to do that when you have that small, medium customer. It's much harder to do it at enterprise level.
Retrospectively, absolutely.
So would you say then, in a way, if you can convince a small business to make the investment and do the easy stuff, so maybe even cybersecurity essentials, do they end up being a tougher target than the enterprise?
In many regards, yeah, but especially they're a smaller concern because you've got a smaller attack surface, but also you can sell the argument as scalability by creating the subnets, putting different things in different subnets. It's easy to scale. I mean, I'm sick of answering the question on the Spiceworks network forum, which is, I've run out of IP addresses. What do I do? Oh, just make the subnet bigger. But that's changing 100% of everything on that subnet. It's going to have to change, even if it's only to change the subnet mask. And you just create a bigger broadcast domain. Whereas if you just create another subnet, create another VLAN, you've changed nothing that's working. There's absolutely zero risk, and you just make an amendment, and it scales better. But getting that concept over to someone who doesn't understand subnetting, someone who doesn't understand the network side of it, and is just under pressure to basically put 10 more machines on the network, is a challenge. And so it's how it's sold to them. And like I say, as we go with more virtual environments, the desire, not necessarily the knowledge and desire to have the 4 different servers in 4 different VLANs is not there, because they're just all the same box only, aren't they? They don't understand the layer 2. The physical separation is different to the logical separation.
Yeah. Tim, are you seeing this as a challenge as well, network segmentation?
I would say yes. Typically, the companies I'm dealing with don't have a lot of network segmentation, other than their wireless networks are segmented from their physical network.
Ooh, goody.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's a start.
That's good. It's good, better than someplace, I've seen.
So, gentlemen,
and there are obviously, if you're in a PCI environment, then you're likely to see some segmentation that is a requirement from a PCI perspective.
Quick poll, Brian. Printers on the internet, good idea? Tim, printers on the internet, good idea?
No. The first question I ask whenever I do a talk is, who's patched their servers this month? I put their hands up. Who's patched their computers this month? When was the last time you patched a printer? And everyone's like, there's always one person, always one. And then you say, well, when was the last time you upgraded the firmware on one of your routers or switches? And you just look blank. Cisco, Brocade, Extreme, HP, they all release security updates very regularly. And no one updates their firewall, no one updates their switches. So that's downtime. You can get downtime for patching, but you can't get downtime for 5 minutes to turn a switch off.
I also think there's a little bit of a problem where people think that hardware appliances, and printers come into that as well, are a sort of abstract concept that look after themselves forever. And you're telling me that the printer runs software? And I think
they have APIs.
Attitude.
They have APIs now. They have APIs. They have hard drives. They scan documents to them. Great. So you can attack it. I mean, you get these things playing Doom now, on the screen. You can pivot from them. They'll probably have access to the file and print server. So if they're not their own subnet, you just basically pivot from the printer to the file and print server. File and print server more likely has profiles on. Then you've got access to profiles. You've got access to profiles. That's another step, remuneration, and it's just a way around system. Printers should be kept at arm's length.
Yeah. Completely agree with you. So we're wrapping up now. We're into the last minute of the session. Just quickly, both of you. Maybe Brian, you go first. What's coming up for you in 2020?
IR35. That's going to be interesting.
Cool.
A lot of my clients are basically playing the safe side, just ruling everyone inside, which is not going to work well for them because they're going to lose a shit ton of experience. Obviously, a lot of conferences coming up. Done a lot of conferences this year. That's not going to change next year.
Beautiful.
Excellent. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, well, as I said at the start, I'm about learning. So next year for me is about learning more. One of the things I really want to do is collaborate with some of the members that I've met here, for example, in terms of a joint engagement, because I think that we can bring, two parties or bring more than one. Looking at things like, funny enough, for me, learning more about network administration. So that's kind of Brian's business.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more about that business and understand it more.
And this is why we paired you up.
Yeah.
I have reasonable rates.
Yeah, well, let's work together then.
There we go. We've done it. We've actually created a collaboration. Fantastic.
Synergies. I love it.
All right, boys.
So good.
Thank you very much,
guys, so much. It was it was our honor, my honor to join you, and really appreciate the Many Hats Club and the whole security community and the beer farmers for putting this together.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
And thanks for no arrests up to now. If we can maintain that, that'd be good.
Well, that's our goal for 2020, stretch goal.
Yeah, but Christmas is around the corner, Brian, and anything goes.
Anything goes.
All right. Listen, chaps, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. And we'll catch you soon. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. Yeah.